Comparison is one of the all-time killers of creativity. So if we can learn what to do when comparison overwhelms us, we are flying! So welcome to this episode with ANITA Wing LEE. Let's dive in. Hey guys, it's ANITA Wing LEE. Welcome to my little creative studio sessions. These are the spaces where we talk about living a creative, brave, and meaningful life. So today I want to share some of my best ideas on how to stop comparing ourselves with others and to start creating instead. Because for me, this is my one sentence summary, and then I'm going to go into some more details. One sentence summary is the best way to stop comparing yourself to others is to create. Because when you are creating, you cannot be comparing yourself. You literally cannot do the two things at the same time. You cannot be painting your own painting at the same time that you're looking over someone else's, wondering why yours doesn't look like theirs. At a certain point, you're just like, you know what, I'm gonna paint my painting. So I want to dive into 6 ideas, 6 things for you to focus on through your creative journey to help you overcome and obliterate comparisonitis. And what is comparisonitis? It's that parasite/disease that we feel in our soul when we're so busy looking at someone else's work that we start to feel so down on ourselves, and within a couple minutes, days, weeks, we've convinced ourselves that we are worthless and we should never try. However, the ideas that are in your soul, I'm gonna take a wild guess, they have been in your heart for a long time. There are things you want to create, there are things you want to tell people, there are messages and wisdom that you have received that you know are so valuable and important. And I want you to know that you have a light to share with the world. There is a message that you are here to share. There's a purpose for you being here. And so life is so much better when we are running our own race instead of trying to figure out how to run someone else's. So in this video, I really want to help you and me understand how to never compare ourselves to others again, and ultimately to live a really creative and fulfilling life. So big idea number 1 to stop comparing yourself to others is to focus on what makes you unique. Do not compare your qualities to someone else. Instead, focus and get clear on what is your special package that makes you unique. So here are some ways that you can break down who you are. Personality, natural abilities, physical appearance and qualities, temperament, extroversion or introversion, character structure, emotional wounds, tragedies and triumphs, values and beliefs. So these are different ways that you can figure out what makes you unique. And I personally love doing this. Whenever I read a book about the Enneagram, for example, which is another way that you can come to understand who you are, I find so much value in reading these kinds of things because it helps me see the gifts that I have and the gifts that other people have. So for example, I'm pretty free-spirited and adventurous soul. However, other people are wired to be more reserved, conscientious, they really like structure, and they really think through every single step. They're not as spontaneous as me. However, that doesn't make me better and it doesn't make them better. It just makes us different. So I really encourage you to spend time getting to know who you are. There are tons of quizzes and books that you can read to help you understand what your strengths are. And for me, this process of taking time to understand what makes me unique has helped me kind of figure out the jigsaw puzzle of who I am, right? There's like all the categories I mentioned, like even your physical appearance, like the fact that I'm Asian is something I can't change. The accent that I speak with, the country that I come from, my temperament. I'm naturally more of a reserved person. I'm more of an introvert. I like to do things like this, where I'm sitting by myself and talking about ideas that inspire me. These are things that are built into us. And there's an analogy that I've found that has really helped me to anchor in on the knowing that I am designed for something specific. I want you to repeat with me. I am designed for a specific purpose in this life. I am designed for a specific purpose in this life that no one else can fulfill but me. So let's take the example of sports. Imagine that Serena Williams, who is a world champion tennis player, was walking around telling herself that, oh man, I am a crap swimmer. Why can't I be like Michael Phelps, an Olympic swimmer? Like, imagine that a champion tennis player is comparing herself to an Olympic swimmer and thinking, why can't I do that? It makes no sense. Like, we would be like, Serena, that is ridiculous. Why don't you just rock at tennis? That's what you're good at. That's what you're made for. That's what you're here to do. You don't need to be looking at other people playing other sports thinking that they're better than you. Now, compare that to ourselves. That's what we do to ourselves. We look at us and the game that we play, and then we look at someone else who's playing a slightly different game. They're still an athlete, they're still in sports, but they're playing a different game, and we're like, why aren't I designed that way? And here's the crazy thing that I learned. Swimmers are actually, their bodies are shaped differently. They tend to be people that are very top heavy. They have broad shoulders, they've got a lot of muscle, they don't necessarily need long legs because they need the arms to pull them forward. So think of it that way. Like, you just might not be designed to be a swimmer, and maybe you're not designed to be a tennis player. Maybe you're designed to be something else entirely. So for me, using the analogy of sports just really helps me to focus on what are the qualities that make me unique, knowing that there's a specific purpose that I'm made for. Now, even if you haven't figured out what you're made for, like you don't know if you're tennis or swimmer or something else, just focus on the qualities for now. That will help you to see, and it'll really help you build your self-esteem and to understand that you are precious, you are beautiful, you have been given unique gifts and qualities for a purpose that you are here to fulfill. And I should also add, it doesn't matter if someone is smarter than you, prettier than you, more talented, more skilled, they have more money, they have better parents, they have better technology. Like, it doesn't matter if other people are better than you. What matters is that you focus on the qualities that you are designed with, knowing that every single thing in your life, every aspect, even if it's a challenge or it seems like a disadvantage, is something that is here to help you, because all of our disadvantages make us stronger. They make us more determined. They give us vision and drive, and these are things that are going to help you create more beautiful things. Big idea number 2 is to focus on your pace of growth. Don't compare the timing of your life to someone else's. I once heard this quote during a sermon, and it stuck with me because it summarizes a lot of what I'm about to say. Different people receive different things at different times. Say it with me. Different people receive different things at different times. This has liberated me, because even me, there are times in my life when I watch someone succeed at something and I'm like, oh, I want that. Then I come up with a 10-step plan for how I'm going to achieve that in the next year. And then I take a deep breath and I remember, no, different people receive different things at different times. There are some roles, some promotions I'm just not meant to get. There are some books I'm just not meant to write. But there are things that I am meant to get. And there are books I am here to write and videos that I am here to make. And I have to want to focus on my pace and my growth. I've made other videos talking about my creative journey over the last couple of years. In some ways, it is extremely slow. There are people who've been on YouTube for 2-3 years and they have a huge following and they're doing well, always in bunny ears because that's relative. And then there's me. I created my YouTube channel in 2009, and then I made my first video in 2014, and it wasn't really until 2016, 2017 that I was like, hey, I'm going to make video and I'm going to learn how to do this. But all along that time, it wasn't like I just sat there and twiddled my thumbs. No, I went to school, I got jobs, I traveled the world, I learned, I made friends. I just put myself on a path of growth. So that's my pace, that's my timing, and even now there are days I'd be like, oh, this is so slow, Anita, but then I'm like, no, I like what I'm doing and I'm okay growing at the pace. I really like the analogy of plants because different plants grow in different ways. Maybe I'm designed to be a tree and I'm still a sapling and it looks like I'm growing really slow. Or maybe I'm a wildflower and I like to have a lot of space and to just like poof, and suddenly I fill an entire orchard or meadow. And think about for you, what plant are you? Maybe you're an orchid and you need to be watered consistently, but not too much water for a long period of time. And then when you bloom for like 6 months at a time and it's glorious, right? And then maybe other people are like dandelions and maybe other people are like roses. So for me, that's another one. You can look at spores or you can look at plants. Because the thing with plants is you can't even make them grow, right? You can't like transplant a plant in winter and then expect it to grow when it's not meant to grow in winter. No, it's hibernating in winter. You got to let it do its thing. So even for me, there's times where I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm hibernating. There's no videos coming out. It doesn't mean I'm not growing. It just means I'm processing something different right now. So focus on your pace of growth, knowing that different people receive different things at different times. Don't worry about other people's timing. Learn to let go of the age thing. I've had to learn to let go of that because a part of me was like, oh, I want to be this incredible like 20-something traveling content creator, which I guess I was for a couple of years. And now I'm doing something different. And that's okay. And, maybe I wanted all this worldly success by a certain age, but God has just been like, nope. That's not happening. I have something else in store for you. And it's good to make peace with that. There's no point trying to be something that you're not. Big idea number 3, focus on creating, not on judging your work. Your job in this process is not to sit there and look at everything you make and be like, that sucks, that sucks, that sucks, that sucks. Your job is to create. And instead of creating 4 things and judging them, create 10 things and let yourself grow through that process. I want to share with you one of my favorite Martha Graham quotes that always reminds me my job is to create, not to judge. There is a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there's only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and it will be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable, nor how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep yourself open and aware to the urges that motivate you. Keep the channel open. So just allow this to sink in. It is not your job to decide how good, how valuable, how your work compares to other expressions. Because the reality is, even when you're creating, there are things you will make that are so precious and important to you. There are things that I've made that I'm like, yes, the world really needs to hear this. I really need to make it. And then when I put it out and I release it into the world, nothing happens. It's like crickets. And I've just learned to be okay with that. And there will be other things that you make that you're like, this is not even my best work, but they seem to go far and other people seem to love it. For me, letting go of the need to judge every single one of my works and just focusing on the act of creating and outputting content, that has liberated me to be a creator, to be an artist, and to just be free to create. It also helps me let go of comparison because it's like, you know what, even other people who I think their work is amazing, I know the same thing happens to them because that's just the reality of being a creator. You will create things that mean a lot to you and mean nothing to the world. So that's okay. It doesn't mean it didn't help the people that it did reach. It just means that it's just your job to keep creating. Big idea number 4 is to focus on what inspires you, not on what you perceive as better. One thing that has really helped me in this is to recognize that there are some styles that are just not my style, and that is okay. So for example, there are things that are often edited to be dark and moody, and I feel like it's taken all the color out of it. and I don't understand why people edit like that. However, that is their style. There might be other things in their work that inspire me, but that particular thing might not inspire me. Then I move to what does inspire me. And this is where I want you just to really absorb and let yourself feel what inspires you. For me, there's certain things about color, movement, evoking the feeling of freedom and adventure. Those are the things that inspire me. And so I don't look at works as certain things are better, or that's a particular style I have to copy in order to be better. I look at things as what inspires me. And I really have just come to recognize that I'm going to develop my own style, and that's okay. So when it comes to finding inspiration, a thing that has really helped me is also to separate creation time from inspiration time. There's a time for me to create, and there's a time for me to receive inspiration. When it's time for me to create, I do not open Google and look up ideas or topics. For the most part, I'm just stuck. If I'm writing, I'm just on the note that I'm writing, right? And I just keep writing. The only thing I'll use is the thesaurus. Or if I'm editing video, generally that is not when I go and watch other videos, because that's when it's easy for me to be like, oh, I missed that shot. That person's doing this thing and it's better. What I do is I've noticed that the weekends, I don't really like doing nitty-gritty work. In the weekends, I like to spend time being inspired. So that's what I do. That's when I'll watch videos. That's when I'll go places that inspire me, or I'll listen to particular talks or watch movies that inspire me. So separate that time between inspiration and creation, and know that when you're just being inspired, just let yourself be inspired. There's no such thing as better, because there are certain things that I know the world thinks is better that I don't like, and better is totally arbitrary. Just focus on what inspires you. Big idea number 5 is to focus on learning, not on your inability or inadequacy to do something. Focus on learning. The beautiful thing about this day and age is that you can honestly learn anything. Anything that you possibly want. There's books, there's YouTube videos, there's blogs. It's incredible. It is actually incredible if you think about it. So let me give you an example. When I decided that I really wanted to step up my Instagram game even more and to learn how to edit photos in a style that reflected what I wanted to put out into the world, I put time into learning how to use Lightroom. Prior to that, I was just using apps on my phone, but I wanted to figure out how to use Lightroom. So I spent time, I scheduled time in my calendar, and I was like, this is when I'm going to learn to edit photos and try to edit this batch of photos. That took a lot longer than I would thought or expected. There were times I'd spend like 3-hour stints watching tutorials on Photoshop and Lightroom, and all I would have at the end of it was like 2 or 3 graphics that I edited that I didn't even think were that nice. But it was only months later when I'm at work and I'm trying to edit things and I'm like ping, 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 and next thing you know, a whole Lightroom album is edited, that I realized the work that I had put in before to learn how to use these programs was paying off now. And then at work, I get to practice the same skills, and then on my own, I practice the same skills. So it does get easier. When you're focusing on learning, it's so much better to stay motivated and inspired. Which leads me to big idea number 6, focus on the progress you've made, not on how far you still have to go. If you are watching this, you have already made progress in life, because it means right now you are already learning. And from this video, you know what some of your next steps are going to be. But right now you've already made progress, and you can take time to soak in how far you still want to go. There's still a lot of places that I want to go and things I want to improve, like color theory, like editing and writing. There's still so much to improve, but that's what inspires me, because I've focused on my progress. I look at where I was a couple years ago when I didn't even know any of this stuff, when I didn't believe that I could write, when I didn't even know I could write as freely and as joyfully as I get to now. And I'm so happy that I took those steps to try it out, just to create, to make things I thought were crap, and to put things out there, and to fail, and to try again, and to watch more tutorials. Like, I'm so grateful I put myself through that process, because now I can see my progress. And that makes me even more inspired and motivated to look ahead into where I want to go in the future. So when you're focusing on your progress, it's really hard to compare yourself, because it's like What's the point in me comparing myself to someone else when I don't know where someone else started from? Like, I don't know if they had a big brother, big sister who taught them how to use this stuff. It doesn't matter, because the point is that I have made progress on my path and I'm continuing to make progress, and that's what keeps me inspired to keep creating. So these are 6 big ideas that have helped me anytime I found myself stuck in comparing myself to others. And they help me get back in the mode of creating. Now, let's say if you're experiencing something right now where you're just in analysis paralysis, you have no idea where to start, and you're like, that's great, Anita, everything you've mentioned, but there's like 100 different things I don't know how to do, and where do I even start learning? I want to share with you my number 1 easiest practical tip to start creating, and that is to schedule it. If you give yourself time in your calendar, in your life, to actually sit down and start something, even if it's just you're going to go to the library and get a free book on how to code or how to graphic design, it's still going to help. Because once I've scheduled something and I show up on my laptop and I just make it happen, that's when the momentum starts. And that's when I'm like, oh, maybe I'll schedule some more times to work on this, since I have so much joy afterwards. And if you find yourself in that time that you're creating, getting into comparing yourself, just go back to being inspired, to focusing on what makes you unique, to creating and not judging, to doing all the ideas that I've shared in this video. So now let's take some real action, because that's when the rubber really hits the road. I want you to look at your calendar right now, right after this video, and then comment below and let me know when is the next time that you could schedule a creative production session for yourself. Maybe it won't be production yet. Maybe it'll just be creative research, creative inspiration, or maybe it'll be spending time figuring out what your strengths are. Whatever that is, comment that time below. I'd love to hear from you. Once you put it into your calendar and you make it real, that's when you're really going to see momentum. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. I really wanted to pack it with all of my thoughts on this, since I experience it too, and it's so liberating when you can set yourself free from comparison. If you want to follow more of my creative adventures, feel free to join me over on Instagram at ANITA Wing LEE, or you can read more of my writing at ANITAWingLEE.com. I'd love to hear you guys, so feel free to leave me a comment anywhere that you find me. I'll see you guys soon.